The most contentious topic of discussion regarding Bollywood, especially the case of actors you root for finally getting commercial attention, is the case of Tripti Dimri. Specifically, whether she can play the commercial game or not. This is very important to understand because it is just not restricted to the craft of acting. It is a skill set that is rather tough to explain. The ability to have an expressive and broad pitch while still not being over the top, having the ability to dance your socks off, and more importantly, which many people discount, it's just about having an inherent screen presence, an X factor that differentiates you and gets you in the category of Hindi film heroine. If one was to really objectively argue, Katrina Kaif, in my opinion, is a very below average actor, still struggling with her dialogue delivery and expressions even after being in the industry for over 20 years. Yet there is a screen presence she possesses in commercial projects that many people cannot discount. An aura that is needed for the scale and pitch at which these films are presented. Tripti is an actor who is found to be under major scrutiny ever since she has been signed for multiple films with big production houses that are in turn getting national attention. Rather than what she experienced, say 5 years ago in the industry, being reduced into the underrated category of actors who have a lot of potential. When she did movies like Laila Majnu, Bulbul and Kala, we in our niche circles would boast about her ability, which wouldn't necessarily translate into wide national attention or huge monetary milestones. Before I absolutely decimate the absolute show that was that song from the upcoming movie Vicky Vidya Ka Wo Wala Video, where Ganesh Acharya extracts the most god-awful choreography and performance from Tripti, I also want to mention something very interesting about how psychology of the audience evolves and how they perceive actors dependent on their popularity. Something that is a lot of the times immaterial to their ability as actors. This is true for influencers too. When the content is brilliant, but it resonates with a select few, when you see an influencer struggling to communicate with a larger audience, you almost feel like a personal connection with them. The fact that you acknowledge their ability before they became mainstream. People have a sense of pride in raving about Avinash Tiwari for Laila Majnu in 2018, when no one was really raving about him. This is true for underrated musicians also. You would read comments which would say something like, people don't make this mainstream, or how do we gatekeep our favorite artist? But the moment that same musician or influencer or actor gets mainstream popularity, it is immediately met with scrutiny. And comments like, you've changed, you become a sellout, you don't have that same bath, when we knew you back then. It's almost as if one feels protective of people when they are struggling to make a name for themselves, and as soon as they reach higher ground, we want to pull them down. Remind them that they are not worthy of that national attention. We want to remind them that we knew you when you were nothing. Almost as if it was a favor, and as this distance from the audience and the artist broadens, the criticism increases tenfold. Vicky Kaushal in Masan, wow, this guy deserves so much attention. Vicky Kaushal doing Toba Toba, अरे इसके ज़्यादा नहीं हो रहा आजकल. Manu Bhaker wins 2 bronze medals. Wow, India is so proud. The same athlete attending functions with those same medals. अभी ये ज़्यादा overacting नहीं हो रही इसकी. Jamie doing his nasally voiceovers of a quality of a tin can. This guy deserves a lot of attention. Jamie does one interview with an actor, big guess, sala samosa. This is real, but also something interesting that I thought I would discuss with you before I dissected the uproar on this god-awful song. Think about it and tell me what you think about the same phenomena in the comments below. Mehboob Mere is the classic example of where the choreographer does not understand the actor's strengths and weaknesses. We all can easily figure out that Tripti is a weak dancer, someone who isn't that comfortable with respect to not even intricate but basic choreography. If you remember Bad News, Bosco very categorically utilized her in the music videos for mainly posing in the background with her tall frame. Like we have the Ajay Devgan school of dance for male actors, there is also a school of dance for female actors that includes, say, the likes of Kalki, who just has 2 left feet. The point is that even when they do dance, it should never be the main focus of the shot. If you remember Badtameez Dil and Balam Pichkari, you see the poor woman just struggling with the choreography in the background, but the focus never entirely shifts towards her. The problem with Mere Mehboob is not only the incompetence of Tripti as a dancer or not having rhythm, but the quality of the steps handed to her too. The dance steps that present her moving a cycle pedal while lying on the floor and then doing a shimmy so that pocket ka sara change nikal jaye as the camera jarringly goes on top of her is the case of just tacky choreography. The choreography, even from a stylistic perspective, is flat, and I'll tell you what that means. The most effective choreography that aesthetically looks appealing should be dynamic in form, with the orientation of the performer changing just enough, with it being a combination of three key things: the form of your hands, the expressions, and the effectiveness of floor or footwork. The chorus hook step presents the two actors with their orientation right in front of camera, jumping awkwardly, clapping their hands, that gives the notion of a PT routine from school than a stylized choreography. Those defending it by saying that it might be intentionally tacky because that is the pitch of the film, a tier 2 heartland comedy, are bluffing because a story with a similar demographic like Bareilly Ki Barfi had an exceptionally effortless and fun choreography in the form of Sweetie Tera drama. The dance steps of Mere Mehboob are so flat and poor that even an above average dancer like Rajkumar looked out of his depth. So it's a combination of both terrible choreography that makes its tonality slightly cheap and tacky, and an actress who is clearly out of her depth in what is required from a commercial heroine. In sharp contrast, I have to tell you what works brilliantly. If we were to compare the same category of dance numbers that present a female lead in a sexy number, and that is Taras from Munjia. This piece, performed by Sharvari and choreographed by Vijay Ganguly, is the perfect example of handing over a choreography to an actress where it balances the act of being sexy but never tipping over to being crass or vulgar. Not only is it because of the dynamism presented by Vijay Ganguly with the choreography that in regular intervals changes the orientation of the dancer, a great balance of close-ups and wide shots, but also because it's an extremely graceful performance by a competent dancer like Sharvari. I'll tell you, this is what separates great performers from the ones that we dismiss and give a pat on the back and say good effort. There is a thehrav not only required in acting, but in dancing too, where you give just enough energy as the music demands. An actor like Hrithik Roshan aces this, acknowledging the vibe of the song and accordingly channelizing the performance dependent on that. Tu Meri from Bang Bang will be a stage performance. Ishq Jaisa Kuch will have a laid-back approach. And the most fascinating of all, a certain stiffness to even his small stint in the song Gun Gun Guna, because the assumption is, why the hell would Vijay Dinanath Chauhan have seamless rhythm? So he's even conscious of the movement aligning with the character. This is an aspect of the craft which actors like, and this is only sometimes, Varun Dhawan and Ranveer Singh often don't get, because they bring so much energy but often throw themselves all over the place in the process. This compromises the choreography, and you see many incomplete moves in the process, or it's just not aligning with the background dancers at all. On a side note, by the way, Vijay Ganguly is one of the best choreographers you will see working actively in the Hindi film industry today. There is a brilliant integration of jazz vocabulary in his work and quirky, simple desi fun also. He is responsible for the charming number Main Parwana from Pippa, beautifully performed by Ishan Khattar, and what is one of my favorite Hindi dance numbers, Galti Se Mistake from Jagga Jasoos. He perfectly balances the art of not making the choreography too complicated, where it cannot be replicated, yet stylized, where it suits the strengths of the actor he is working with. Coming back to the balance between what is sexy and what can easily tip over to cheap and tacky. Sorry, with dance I just get really passionate about the topic and go on and on. So this made me really wonder about female actors who really ace the art of making, well, questionable item songs also glamorous and fun but not cheap. I know the existence of item songs itself is pretty straightforward. Why showcase women as just objects of desire? But just remember, this video is purely to judge the craft of choreography and which choreographers and actors have been in perfect synergy with their collaboration. Katrina Kaif's most raunchy, in-your-face dance number has to be her song Chikni Chameli from the movie Agnipath, a song in which the actor is found vigorously hip-thrusting her way towards the camera. But there is an odd grace that she brings to this energetic number that somehow doesn't make the choreography or overall setting crass. If you see songs like Zara Zara Touch Me from Race and even Sheila Ki Jawani, the context of the lyrics of these songs all have sexual innuendos, but there is a clear effort and execution of the dance form that sets Katrina apart, that makes one appreciate the song and performance more than the context that this is an item song. I remember when Tismar Khan released, people genuinely bought tickets to see Sheila Ki Jawani in theatres. Some even having left the theatre after it was over. The only time I believe Katrina has been absolutely screwed over from a choreography point of view, where she was handed over the most odd contortions and shapes, was the song Suraiya from Thugs of Hindustan. Prabhu Deva, the choreographer, had Katrina doing the most odd shapes and convoluted sequence of steps. So much so that even though Katrina had her game face on, you could not help but conclude that everything just looks awkward. The perfect balance, I think, of a raunchy number where the sequence never came across as crass, where it actually was executed, in my opinion, by the most underrated dancer from Bollywood, was in the movie Ayya. Rani Mukherjee in Agga Bai was a sight to behold. A belly dance number executed to perfection. Rani, while still embodying a woman who lusts over a man's body, had this effortless grace with her isolations and movement, exactly reflective of a seasoned belly dancer. This song, choreographed by Meher Malik from the Banjara School of Dance, Rani honestly just does not get enough props of how good of a dancer she is, matching and even overshadowing in many cases in other movies and songs the actors she shakes a leg with, and she's been doing this for over a span of 20 years. When I think about the tiny frame of Rani and the sheer energy she brings to her dance performances, absolutely filling up the screen, I'm reminded of what Srilila is executing in the Telugu film industry. Another actress with a tiny physical frame but such boundless energy that she matches even the likes of Mahesh Babu and Ravi Teja. Even her hip thrusts and pelvic isolations have a flair rather than a jarring quality that makes you, just dismiss it as tacky. You don't. You see the art form versus the connotation of the dance number possibly being problematic or unnecessary. If it's a Srilila dance number, people watch. This, however, is not the case entirely with Telugu dance numbers, because you see an egregious and blatant attempt in many cases at only focusing on the woman's body with tasteless close-up shots. When you see Aisha Khan's dance number with Vishwak Sen, or the travesty that was every single musical number from the recently released Double is Smart or Mr. Bachchan, there is a long way to go regarding the template that is adamant in just highlighting the curves of the women, rather than actually paying any attention in designing a fun and interesting choreography. The two actors who have been constantly used in this template to sell a film in recent years have been Nora Fatehi and Tamanna, where the producers capitalize, of course, on the massive male following that both the actors have by making them wear revealing clothes and show off their curves. Nora, however, has actively wanted to seek for refinement of this craft of dancing, wanting to work on herself and challenge herself in different dance forms, which she has showcased with great conviction in her own musical numbers. However, the commercial Hindi template mainly utilizes her for what the algorithm demands. Tamanna, however, especially if you see the terrible examples in movies like Aranmanai or the film she recently did with Dileep, it's so clear that the paycheck overrides anything else. There is little craft involved and more just an artistic way to cater to the male gaze. Her dance number in Jailer is probably the only one that has been aesthetically shot and choreographed in an inventive fashion. I also appreciated the fact that her number in Stree 2 was actually integrated into the screenplay. So one can clearly tell that there is a thin line between what is graceful and elegant and what is cheap and tacky, especially when designing a number that is intended to be sexy. Sometimes the actors just have the ability from a dance POV to give it a professional final touch. Sometimes it's a synergy of both an interesting choreography and a capable actor, but other times, much like the recently released Mebo M, every department goes wrong, giving the music video the tonality of a cheap event jahan gaddiyan phenk rahe ho versus a fun dance number from the next releasing commercial movie. And that was a video, guys. Write down in the comments below, what do you think about the scrutiny that a lot of actors get when they transition to the mainstream, and the case of, well, the awkward dance number we talked about. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram. The handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.